An ancient riddle that quietly haunts every boundary you think is real. Because it doesn't just ask about sand, it asks about you. When did you become yourself? Was it at birth? The first memory? A heartbreak? If you lose a memory, are you less of who you were? If you gain a belief, do you become someone new? Where does the line of you begin? And where does it blur? We live in a world obsessed with edges. Define it, name it, label it, own it. But what if those edges are illusions, conveniences, constructed not for truth, but for comfort? The mind craves distinction. The soul, however, lives in gradients. Consider identity. Is a person a woman because of biology, expression, feeling, or context? And when those shift, gradually, imperceptibly, does the label still hold? Is someone a child at 17, but an adult at 18? Does one midnight really rewrite the story of what you are? Or are we just drawing lines through sand, pretending they mean more than they do? The truth is, most lines are arbitrary. We inherit them, we enforce them, but we rarely examine them. This isn't just abstract philosophy, it's personal. How many failures make you a failure? How many compliments make you beautiful? How many tears before it becomes grief? How much doubt before it's a crisis? We cling to categories because they offer clarity, but clarity is not always truth. Sometimes it's just comfort dressed up in logic, and yet, we must navigate the world somehow. So we compromise. We use the line, but forget it's real. We say, this is love, this is success, this is enough. But if we're honest, we know it's softer than that, more fluid, more lived in, more evolving. Maybe boundaries aren't lies, but they are stories, and stories shift. What if you gave yourself permission to redraw the lines that once confined you? Not to live in chaos, but to live in awareness, to know where you stand and why you stand there. Not because someone handed you a definition, but because you felt it into being. You are not a heap. You are not a single grain. You are the movement between them. A boundary is a kind of agreement, not with others, but with reality. It says, from here to there, things change. It says, I am this and not that. But the more we observe closely, the more that line begins to shimmer. Was there a moment you became wise? Or did it sneak in between sleepless nights and quiet mornings? Did your love for someone vanish in a day? Or was it chipped away by silence, indifference, 1,000 tiny forgettings? Transformation rarely announces itself. It whispers. It blurs. It complicates every neat category we cling to. We like to think in binaries, love or hate, yes or no, sick or well. But in truth, we live in the spectrum in between. That soft gradient where meaning is made, not found. And in that space, everything becomes a paradox. You can be healing and hurting, lonely and whole, lost and more yourself than ever before. So why do we cling to lines? Because they give us control. They promise a map. But the map is not the territory. And the territory is not a grid of squares. It's a wild expanse of subtle shifts. What if you stopped needing to define every feeling, to measure every thought, to categorize each version of yourself into past, present, better, worse? What if instead you just watched? What if you noticed the moment before a laugh still held the echo of your tears, or that the person you're becoming still carries the fingerprints of who you were afraid to be? We live in thresholds. Every breath is a doorway, every word a border crossing, every memory a blurred edge between what happened and what we now believe happened. And in this space between, the not quite, the almost, the becoming, we find ourselves most alive. We are the question, not the answer, the painter, not the outline, the weather, not the forecast. So next time someone asks, what are you really? Smile and say, a heap, a line, a paradox in motion. We assume that change happens in events, graduation, divorce, diagnosis, but most change unfolds invisibly. We assume that change happens in events: graduation, divorce, diagnosis, like a tide receding, unnoticed until the shore is dry. One small shift, then another, then another. And suddenly the life you thought was yours feels foreign, or distant, or undone. Was there a moment when you stopped believing? When you grew up? When you fell out of love or into purpose? Or did it happen one grain at a time? So slowly you mistook it for standing still. The Sorites problem isn't just logical, it's existential. It shows us how thin the thread is between what we feel is real and what we can prove is real. A person doesn't go from confident to broken overnight. It happens in silent self-betrayals. A compromise here, an abandoned dream there. A person doesn't become courageous all at once. It begins in a whisper. I could speak. I could try. I could leave. You are always in process, which means every identity you hold is both true and temporary. Every label, a placeholder. Every category, a raft on a moving river. So how do we live? If the lines keep shifting, if the heap keeps changing, how do we root ourselves? Not in definition, but in discernment. Not by building a fortress of rules, but by learning the subtle art of feeling the shift. Because when you can sense that moment, the grain that tips the pile, the choice that reshapes the self, you gain something more valuable than certainty. You gain presence. You stop living in what should be. You start living in what is, even as it changes. This is where wisdom begins, in the awareness that you are not fixed, not permanent, not binary, but something gentler, more flexible, more alive. And that life isn't asking you to be something, it's inviting you to become. So what do you do with this paradox? You live it. You let the edges of your definition soften. You notice when your truth is really just tradition, or trauma, or convenience, dressed in certainty. You begin to ask, whose boundary is this really? Do I still need this line? Who would I be without it? Some lines are sacred. Your safety, your sovereignty, your values. Others are inherited, invisible fences that kept your ancestors safe, but now keep you small. Discernment means honoring the former and outgrowing the latter. The Sorites paradox doesn't mean we live in chaos. It means we live awake. We realize that every enough is a choice. Every label is a lens. Every definition, a direction, not a destination. And with that awareness, we start to speak differently. Instead of saying, I am this, we say, I'm becoming this. Instead of, that person is bad, we ask, what pain are they carrying? Instead of, this is who I'll always be, we offer, this is who I'm learning to be, for now. The paradox doesn't paralyze you, it frees you, because now you are no longer a prisoner of the heap, trapped trying to prove your worth. By counting grains of success, beauty, or progress. You are no longer seduced by the sharpness of the line, mistaking the illusion of control for the substance of connection. You become someone softer, wiser, more real. You begin to listen, to the quiet places between your categories, to the moments that don't have names, to the in-betweens that language skips over, and in that space, the unspoken, the undefined, the paradoxical, you find something deeper than answers. You find yourself, not the self that can be pinned down, but the one that pulses beneath every label, that breathes behind every name. You are not a heap. You are not a line. You are the space between them. And in that space, truth lives. Next time on the Quiet Paradox series, we explore times fold, why the present feels wider than a moment. Until then, stay curious, stay conscious. If this stirred something inside you, subscribe, like, and share this with a fellow seeker.